Bank robbers were there in the Federal Reserve. The police officers were scrambling, trying to find them. They did find the bank robber standing right in front of the giant vault. They looked very, very confused. The bank robbers were absolutely flummoxed. They didn't know what to do with negative $16 trillion. Jokes aside, though, the Federal Reserve is clearly a major player in this current economic crisis. That makes the election of the next Federal Reserve Chair all the more important. The current Federal Reserve Chair, Ben Bernanke, has come to the end of his second term. His term will end on January 31st, prompting President Obama to nominate a new Federal Reserve Chair. There was tough competition between the two top candidates, which were originally Larry Summers, who served as Secretary of Treasury under Bill Clinton and as the head of the Council of Economics for President Obama in 2009-2010, and Janet Yellen, who is the current Vice Chairwoman of the Federal Reserve. Now, these two competitors were head-and-head, but Larry Summers was favored by President Obama because he had had clear past dealings with Larry Summers, making their relationship closer. However, due to much opposition, as the New York Times reports on September 15th, Larry Summers withdrew his nomination because of all the opposition he was facing. But now that President Obama's top candidate is gone, the people are wondering, is Larry Summers' withdrawal from consideration for the Federal Reserve a loss for President Obama? And the answer to this question is thankfully no, it's not. Because first, Larry Summers was simply too contentious. Second, he would never have won. And third, Janet Yellen is actually a much better candidate. So first, we look to how right now actually Larry Summers is a very controversial candidate. He was very much a divisive force within the Senate Democrats. In fact, as the New York Times continues on September 16th, we saw that Larry Summers was often labeled as very abrasive, and this abrasiveness and this divisive nature cost him many votes. In fact, 5 Senate Democrats already confirmed that they were not going to vote yes for Larry Summers' nomination in the first few weeks. This shows you that Larry Summers already garnered much opposition. In fact, the Boston Globe continues on September 17th that President Obama would have had to spend precious political capital just pushing Larry Summers through. And this precious political capital needs to be used for his other policies that are right now facing contention, such as his health care. So we see that President Obama would have had to waste his political capital on Larry Summers. And not only that, even if he did use his political capital to push Larry Summers through, he would still not have succeeded. Summers was so contentious and didn't have so much support that he would never have been nominated. The Economist states on September 21st that if President Obama were to have nominated Larry Summers, he would have faced bruises after coming out from Congress. This is because we had Senate Democrats lined up against Larry Summers. And there were so many Senate Democrats lined up against Larry Summers that we needed a strong Republican base to support Summers. But Summers, being a Democratic nominee, would never have garnered that Republican support, earning Obama another loss in Congress. After already facing a loss from his Syria decision to embark on military strikes, another loss of this size would have lost much face for President Obama. And as a result, Larry Summers' withdrawal actually saved President Obama a lot of pain, as the Wall Street Journal on September 15th reports. By saving Obama much pain, we see that the withdrawal was not actually a loss. But now that Larry Summers has withdrawn, we have to see the other candidates that are currently up for nomination, and that's Janet Yellen. And despite what most people think, Janet Yellen is actually a much more qualified candidate than Larry Summers originally was. She has widespread support from the Senate Democrats and outside economists. In fact, she even has support from Wall Street. As the Christian Science Monitor reports on September 17th, Janet Yellen has a lot of support from Wall Street because she was going to keep interest rates a lot lower than Larry Summers was originally going to. Larry Summers was more likely to increase those interest rates at a faster pace, therefore resulting in more cash loss for Wall Street. Therefore, when Janet Yellen stepped in, Wall Street showed its staunch support. Not only that, Janet Yellen has more of a focus on unemployment. Now, this focus on unemployment rather than low interest rates actually appeals to many Senate Democrats, earning her a lot of support from that as well. So she has widespread support from this strong base. But not only does she have support, she has the qualifications and the brains to get the job done. That's from Washington Post on September 18th that tells us that Janet Yellen is very much a qualified candidate. She served as Federal Reserve Chair of San Francisco from 2004 to 2010 and has served as the Federal Reserve Chairwoman ever since, giving her a lot of experience in both good and bad economic times. Furthermore, she has served under many different people, meaning that she has a lot of experience as well. So her qualifications are clearly there. Not only that, the Washington Post continues that Janet Yellen would be a more independent force from President Obama. The Federal Reserve is supposed to act as a separate entity from the White House, and Janet Yellen, with her independence from Obama, would fulfill that role. Furthermore, she was the one who got the big calls right. When everyone else was skeptical about the economy going into recession, Janet Yellen was positive that the recession would happen, that the economy would have to go to a downturn, and she urged the Federal Reserve to take action. But they didn't listen to her, and until she was proven right, the Federal Reserve didn't take any action, therefore causing it to be too late. So she was clearly right in her forecasts and in her predictions. Therefore, saying that Janet Yellen is actually a much better and smarter candidate in that she got her forecasts right. So when we ask, is Larry Summers' withdrawal from consideration as the Federal Reserve Chair a loss from President Obama? The answer is no, because first, Larry Summers is a too contentious candidate. Second, because he's going to lose. And third, because Janet Yellen wishes a much better candidate. And being a much better candidate, hopefully Obama can get her instead.
Okay.